If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and another tutorial. Today I'm super happy to sew along with you the Imhotep bag, a Sacartonne Designs pattern. Let me show you some of the amazing features of this bag. She is definitely unique. This is the larger size. There's a smaller size that is done to about 80% of this as well. I just love the stitched in features of the top of this bag. So for this one, you definitely, for this top part, want to use a softer vinyl like I've used here. It's a Mora vinyl from Emmaline bags, or a cotton or a corduroy, or something that has quite a bit of loft to it. If you use something that is too thick, you're not going to get in this awesome cinched in ruffled type look. You have two side pockets that could fit a plastic water bottle or a smaller travel mug. On the back, you have a zipper pocket. Did I already show the piping around the front? I can't remember. There are different ways in the pattern that you can close it. I chose to do the strap closure. You could do a turn lock. You could do a magnetic snap, whatever you like. But I chose to use a bridge connector and the strap. So when you open this up, it gives you access to another slip pocket here, as well as another slip pocket on the back. And when you open it up, she is big and deep. You could put so much stuff in there, and she also has a zipper pocket on the opposite side. Such a fun sew. I learned some new techniques in this. I've never sewn anything like this before. I truly enjoyed it, and I look forward to doing the smaller size as well in the near future. Now this is made with shoulder straps. It does not have any instructions for doing a crossbody strap, but I'm pretty sure with the O-rings here, if you wanted to add a crossbody strap, it would be easy enough that you just have to connect it to the O-rings on one of the front O-rings and the opposite back O-ring, and it would sit perfectly fine on you if you needed that crossbody strap. Guts of this bag. Okay, as I mentioned, the blue vinyl and the piping, I made my own piping in this one, is Mora faux leather from Emmaline bags. This feather vinyl is vinyl from Sew Yours. The black is the Loon Black Canuck vinyl from Galaxy Customs. All of my hardware is from Emmaline bags. The piping cording for making my vinyl piping I get from Galaxy Customs. My lining, I used a waterproof canvas from Pacana. What else? Interfacing in this bag. So if I had used any cottons, I would have definitely backed them with EB Fuse Like or SF101, a medium woven interfacing of some sort, but I used canvases and vinyls in this, so I didn't have to do that. My main stabilizer in this big bag is the Pretty in Pink Sew Foam. I get that from Galaxy Customs. And besides that, that is all there is for interfacing in this. There's no deckable light, there's no deckable heavy, nothing like that. This goes together in such a unique fashion, and it comes together really quick. Thank you so much, Marie Jo, for allowing me to make this tutorial. I really do hope you guys enjoy this. If at any time you do find this tutorial useful, please do give me a thumbs up, subscribe, or give me a comment down below. Anyways, how about we get to making this bag? So you're going to need some rivets, number 5 zipper tape, piping if you're making your own piping, 4 O-rings, 2 zipper pulls, strap ends, optional magnetic snap, a bridge connector, and your nameplate. These here are my piping pieces as I'm making my own piping, your closing tab, your 4 vertical connector pieces, 2 handles, your front and back panel circular pocket pieces, your circular pocket lining pieces, lower front and back panels, 2 top of your exterior for your bags, your 2 lining pieces, your back pocket overlay piece, and your back pocket exterior and lining pieces, interior zip pocket pieces,
and your 2 side straps, as well as foam. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do my straps and my piping off camera. If you need classes on how to make those, I do have them down below in the description. Okay, so now we're going to make our connectors. I've done 3 already. I've put a middle center line down the middle of the wrong side. I'm using some double-sided tape to fold my long ends into that center line. I'm going to put a scrap of tape on one of the short edges, and I'm going to measure down 2 inches from that short edge, slide my O-ring on, and fold it over right at that line, bringing the connector wrong sides together and putting some double-sided tape on the wrong side again. From the folded part, we're going to measure down 1 inch and make sure all of our connectors are the same size. Okay, so now we're going to take our front circular pocket piece, find your top and bottom centers. Front and back are done differently. From the center, we're going to measure over as per the pattern and draw a line. And this is going to mark the center guideline for our connector piece. So once you have that nice and centered, do the same on the opposite side. It should work out to be centered with where our top part is there, where our tabs are going to connect. Take off your double-sided tape and center your connector on that line, and it should line up perfectly with the very top part, like so. Should be nice and even there, lined up, centered. Now we're going to go ahead and top stitch up here across that 1 inch line and back down for both of those. So that is the front all done. You can go ahead and trim your connectors up so they kind of go in line with the curve of the circular pocket exterior piece. Now we're going to work on our back pocket piece. We want to do our zipper pocket pieces first. So we have our lining right side up, putting some double-sided tape along the top of that and on top of the exterior. Definitely use clips if you prefer. So again, our lining is right side up. I'm going to take my zipper with my pull closing to the right, and it's also right side up. Stick it down on that lining piece. Take my exterior piece, put it right sides down, sandwiching that zipper tape. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to sew across here with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Flip it wrong sides together and then top stitch and baste around the 3 raw edges. So I'm going to go ahead and put on my zipper foot here to ensure I get a nice and even seam and a nice and straight zipper. Now that that's done, now you can see the pull is going to the left, which is what we want. Find your bottom center like so. Find the top and bottom centers of your back circular pocket piece. And we're going to take, just like we did with the first one, we're going to measure our strap placements as per the measurements in the pattern. Again, marking that center line. Take your zipper pocket piece, and I'm going to put a little bit along the top of the back of the zipper, the unsewn side of the zipper. We're going to put this right side up on top of our circular piece, lining up the bottom centers of both pieces, and then sticking that tape down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to baste that bottom part and the sides to keep that in place. And then go ahead and trim up the zipper pocket to go along the curve of that bag, or of that panel. Now I'm going to take our zipper pocket accent piece. I've drawn a center line. I'm using some double-sided tape to secure the long edges of this into that center line. I'm going to take some more double-sided tape and put it down the wrong side center of that piece that we just did. And then we're going to put this nice and straight along the top of the unsewn side of the zipper, making sure we have about the same spacing as we do on the bottom side of the zipper. And we're going to top stitch across here and across here to hold that in place. Now that that's done, you're going to go ahead and you're going to do the other two connectors exactly like we did with the front panel. So both of those are complete. Now you can see here we do have a placement line here. I've put some just cut some little slits into my pattern piece here so I can transfer that line to my exterior pieces right sides with a pen that we can erase. And this is going to help us place our bottom front panels with the piping on it to these circular pocket pieces. So do this on both of them. Okay, now we're going to take these bottom panels, and first thing we want to do is we want to mark where our pleats are going to go. So again, I put little slits in my pattern pieces so I can easily transfer these marks to the wrong side of both of these pieces. Make sure you get all four. I almost forgot to do the second one here. So go ahead and draw those onto both of these panels. Now we're going to work on our piping. So along the top curvy part of this bottom panel here, I'm going to put some double-sided tape. And then I'm going to take my piping. So I've made my own piping, and we're going to have the piping right side up as well as this piece. And we are going to line that raw edge of this bottom piece right up along the bottom of our piping, right into where to cover up the stitching, the basting stitches of that piping. You may have to go and put little slits into your piping to help ease it around those edges, depending. I'm doing vinyl piping, so I definitely had to do that. You may not have to with cotton piping. Go ahead and maneuver that piping around those curves, making this placement really good. So yes, the top part of this bottom piece is a raw edge, so definitely make sure you're using a non-fraying fabric. Now what we want to do is, once we have that in place, we want to take some of the cording out by about a 1/2 inch or so outside of the seam allowances. So once I have the length of this, I'm just going to pull this away. I'm going to mark where about my 1/2 inch mark is on each side. And I'm going to take the ends of that piping, pull out those basting stitches fold back my exterior vinyl pieces that are engulfing that piping. We don't want to cut that vinyl or that cover of the cording. We just want to cut about that 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch out of the cording. Bring our vinyl pieces back together and stick it back in place. Do that for both sides. Okay, so now just along the bottom of our front or back circular pocket, we're going to put some double-sided tape. And this is where that line that we drew on the front of this is going to help. Our piping should sit just above that line, and the top edge of our bottom piece should be right along that line, like so. I found it easy as that was a 3/8 of an inch line, and I know that my piping I did with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, so I'm just matching up the bottom of the circular with the edges of my piping like so on the wrong side, and then I know it'll all get caught good when I go to top stitch this in place. Once you have that placed well, you're going to go ahead and top stitch right along that vinyl piece, and that is going to attach the piping and that bottom panel to the circular pocket panel. You will do the exact same thing with the back panel. That is our front and back panel all pieced together. Now I've gone ahead and I have backed those with foam. Now you'll see here I cut my darts out of my foam. I've also cut my foam a little bit too big here, and the reason I do that is so I can kind of pull it nice and tight against the stitching and cut it at this 90-degree angle to reduce that bulk. I've also taken the foam outside of the seam allowances in the top little corners there of this just to help reduce that bulk. Now you can see I went ahead and put in my rivets, my nameplate, and my bridge connector here. Okay, so now we're going to take our lining circular pocket pieces and we are going to line them up with the top edge of one. Make sure you're folding your connectors out of the way. We do not want to sew through these connectors. And we only need to clip along the top edge of this. Secure, you're going to go ahead and you are going to sew along just this top side with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Once that's done, you're going to take your exterior and your lining, and we're just going to trim these top corners on an angle as close as we can to the stitching. That'll help us get a nice and pointy edge to those little connector tab pieces. And I'm taking my picking shears and cutting around these curves. My picking shears are very, very dull. I totally need to buy a new pair of these. Somebody remind me, please. Go ahead and cut along these curves. Now go ahead and flip the lining and the exterior wrong sides together. You may need a pokey tool to poke out the top of where these connectors are up here. I do not know what to call those connector tabs, I guess. So go in and make sure you take your time there to make sure you get those corners nice and crisp and press out all of those seams. Once everything is pressed out well, we're going to go ahead and roll that seam in between our fingers, secure with with clips. Words are hard today. To prepare for top stitching. Now this you're going to start and stop your top stitching 3/8 of an inch from each edge. I didn't the first time around and had to pull them out, so make sure you're definitely starting and stopping 3/8 of an inch from each edge. I'm changing into my zipper foot here so I can get nice and close to my connector without running over that connector. You definitely want to make sure you're not sewing through the black pieces here, the O-ring connectors. So having the right zipper foot on will definitely help you get nice and close to that, as that is a tight space to sew around. So again, start 3/8 of an inch from the one side and stop 3/8 of an inch from the opposite side. Once the top stitching is done, starting and stopping for 3/8 from an edge, now we can do these darts. So what we want to do is fold along the center line of the darts. So we're bringing our material right sides together, holding it with the clip, and then we're going to match up the two outside lines and sew across that line for all 4 of the darts. That's what it looks like. That gives the bag a nice and circular looking shape along the bottom. So now we're going to take our top, what are these called? The top of the bag exteriors. Now these are going to also act as the top cinch part as well as the bottom of our slip pockets. So mark your top and bottom centers. What we want to do with a pen that is not going to disappear fast, but one that you can wipe away, is use our pattern piece to mark our rivet placement. These are very, very important to do, so make sure you do this on both the front and the back of these piece D pieces. Make sure you have your pattern piece orientated properly so you are marking them properly as well. Okay, once that's done, I'm going to make sure that I'm marking my bottom. So I'm just going to put bottom here. We're going to take the bottom of this right side up. We're going to take our lining of that slip pocket right side down, folding the exterior out of the way, and match up that bottom and clip together. So it's the bottom of piece D and the bottom of the circular pocket lining. So across there with a 1/4 inch seam allowance for both pieces. This is what that looks like done. So now what we want to do is we want to kind of open these all the way up like this, put them right sides together. You'll kind of have to poke one of your exterior pieces so they're sitting into each other concave. Take your pleats and make sure your seams are nesting together so you have not too much bulk in there. Match up your bottom seam. Finish clipping along that bottom. And then we're going to work up to all of our seams, working our way up. We want to make sure that our seams are nice and even, so make sure you're nesting those seams or opening those seams up if you can. I'm just going to nest mine and make sure they line up from both the front and the back sides because we want to have a nice and seamless line of seaming here. Right here, you're going to make sure again that where our exterior and our lining meets for that circular pocket, that seam meets up and clip in place, and then go ahead and evenly distribute the fabric in between those marks and do the same with the opposite side of this, leaving or clipping everything together except for the very top edge. You can see I'm no stranger to clips here. I don't want it to move. Go ahead and sew all the way around there with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, leaving that top open for turning. Okay, make sure everything was caught, and if it was, go ahead and turn this right side out. So make sure your darts all line up, all your seams line up. I did pretty good here. I'm happy with that. Poke out all of those seams so they're nice and crisp. Make sure everything was caught. And then you can go ahead and stuff those slip pocket lining in like so. And remember, this top of the bag exterior also works as part of our slip pocket. So make sure that's in there nice and taut like so. And you're going to see where our markings for our rivets here, the very first one in, how it lines up almost perfectly with our strap connector here. So I'm going to go ahead and punch out that first hole. And I'm going to put that exterior topic bag exterior nice and flat, and I'm going to just mark where I am going to be poking or punching my hole for my rivet just through the exterior circular pocket part. You're not putting that through the connector part. Make sure you take a scrap of Decaville Heavy as well. We're going to take our rivets and we're going to put it through here and then through that top part there, putting a piece of heavy stabilizer over top of the post and then pressing that in place. You will do the same with the other 3 connectors. Once that's done, you can start working on your lining. I already did my zipper pocket, leaving the bottom open for turning. If you need a class on how to do that, that's down below in the description. Now take your 2 lining pieces, and much like we did with the exterior, going to put them right sides together, and you're going to clip all the way around and sewing around here, but you are not going to sew along the top. Of course, you're going to need that for finishing the bag. So go ahead and clip all the way around that curve like so. Now we are going to leave about an 8-inch opening in the bottom of our lining. I'm just going to mark that so I don't forget. That is going to be for turning the bag. And what we're going to do is we're going to start at the top with a 1/4 inch seam allowance for about 2.5 inches, branch out to about a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and same for the other side. That just makes for a nice and tight lining fit. Once you have that done, we're going to take our exterior. We are going to put it inside the lining so they're right sides together. I have it situated so my zipper pocket of my lining is going to be along the back of my bag, which is how I like my bags done. You're going to match up the top centers like so of both of the exterior and the lining pieces. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to match up the side seams, either opening those seams up or nesting them together. Clip in place. Do the same with the opposite side, and then go ahead and evenly distribute the fabric and clip around those quarter sections. Again, you can see I'm not a stranger to clips. I definitely do not want this to shift. Now, if I was on a flatbed, I go ahead and I would stitch around the inside like this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but I'm going to take this to my cylinder arm. You do the same on a free arm and go all the way around with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Make sure everything was caught. If so, go ahead and turn the bag right side out through the opening in the bottom of the lining. Once you have it out, give it a good tug just to make sure that whole seam was caught, which it was. If it all looks good, go ahead and stuff that lining inside the bag. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and roll that top seam in between my fingers and secure with clips to prepare for top stitching. Stitch this on a flatbed. You can either turn this inside out and do it from the inside, but I'm just going to take this to my cylinder arm. Again, if you're on a free arm, you can do it exactly like this and go ahead and top stitch all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and close up my lining. If you are doing a magnetic snap or a turn lock, do not do this just yet, as you will need to install those through the opening in the lining. So make sure you follow the instructions for that. I'm not doing that, so I can go ahead and I can close up my lining. So through the opening in my zipper pocket, I'm pulling the entire bottom of that lining piece through that pocket and then matching up the unsewn opening at the bottom of my lining through that zipper pocket. And then I will go ahead and I will sew that opening shut with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Once that's done, stuff that back in through the opening in that zipper pocket. Ensure there's no holes. Mine was good. And then you can go ahead and take that zipper pocket piece, fold in the raw edges, clip in place, and then top stitch that close, and that's totally enclosing the bottom of your bag. Okay, go ahead and put your zipper pocket in nice and flat. You want your lining to be sitting in here nice and flat and nice and tight now, because we are going to start working on those side straps with the rivets. So I'm going to mark the center line on both of my side straps, and then I'm going to, just like my other connectors, fold that long edge into the center line. You can definitely use clips instead of tape. Once you have that done for both, you're going to go ahead and you're going to top stitch down both of those folded edges with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now you're going to take this rivet marking pattern piece, and you are going to mark with a pen that erases. On the right side of your connectors are rivet placement marks. Go ahead and cut out those holes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my lining and my exterior are nice and flat, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut out those rivet marks that we had marked. Now this one that lines up at the seam, don't do it right on the seam. Do it either to the left or to the right of the seam, because you definitely don't want to accidentally cut those stitching. Now we are punching these holes through all layers, so these do show through the lining side as well. Now you'll see I am using O-rings instead of gate rings. So if you're using O-rings, do it the way I'm doing it. If you have gate rings, you can definitely put those on later. So I'm taking my connector piece and I am putting it around my O-ring, bringing it wrong sides together, matching up those first two holes on the connector piece to put my rivet through, and then bringing it through that first hole that we put on the main body piece. And then we are going to secure that with our rivet press. Once that is done, we're going to go ahead and work on the second hole, put that through the side connector, and you're going to match it up with the next hole like so, and you're going to see this is going to start gathering our fabric, which is what we want to do. So continue doing that over to the other O-ring. Now once we come to the next O-ring, we're going to do the same. We're going to put our rivet through the first hole. Actually, we're going to wrap this around the O-ring, put it through the two connector holes, which will secure that connector around that O-ring, and then put it through our main bag pieces, just like so. You'll repeat this exact same process with the other side and the other side connector. This is what that looks like complete. She looks so good. Okay, so now we're going to work on our strap tab connector. Now I was originally going to put a strap end on the end, but my strap end is too thick to fit under my bridge connector, which I'm using as my strap holder. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn one raw edge down of my strap connector piece by 1/4 of an inch. So I will just have a nice and finished edge here that we will top stitch in place. So go ahead, if you're going to have a raw edge, you can leave a raw edge there and put a connector on if it will fit through your bridge connector. Now I'm going to go ahead and down the center line of this connector piece, just like we've done with the other connectors, I'm going to use some double-sided tape. Again, you can use clips. Fold the long edge in to that center line. Once we have this folded into the center line, we're then going to fold it wrong sides together in upon itself like so. Hold some clips. Take some clips to hold that in place. And then because I did finish off the one short end, because I'm not able to put a connector on that one, I will be taking this to the machine and top stitching down this side, the bottom, and up. So that is done. I actually put a decorative rivet on the one side that will go through the bridge connector, and I put my strap connector on the back side. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to rivet through just the slip pocket, 2 rivets to hold the back side of my connector in place like so through all the layers. And then this should make it so you can slip it through that strap keeper like so. Go ahead, put on your handles. So I've gone and I've riveted on my handles, and that completes this bag. Take a look at everything, admire your work. It's amazing how such a complex bag comes together so incredibly fast. A very, very satisfying sew and a very unique bag. I just loved making this. I hope you all enjoyed making it too. And if you sewn along with me, admire your work. And we're done.
All right, that's it. That's all. What'd you think of that? Super unique construction, hey? Just love it, as I love all of Sacartonne Designs patterns. Anyways, if you did like this tutorial, please do give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. Shoot me a comment down below if you have any questions. If you'd like to support my channel further, you can always buy me a coffee. That's linked down below in the description. If you haven't already, check out the membership side of the channel in case there's something there that sparks your interest. And until the next one, I'll see you guys again. Bye.